Okay. So sorry about that. Learning outcomes, understand how families can be engaged as partners in their child's education, address historical trauma experienced by families of color by building relational trust through ongoing structures at our sites for parent-teacher communication and learning. Relationship building is key and foundational. And then an overview of OUSD's anti-racist family engagement framework, learn best practices, and how to start the year off strong with these ideas and practices in mind. Next slide, please. So now we'll go over the community agreements. Next slide. So the courageous conversation protocol. Sorry, having a little bit of technical difficulty on my end. Courageous conversation protocol. The 4 agreements are to stay engaged, experience discomfort, speak your truth, and accept and expect non-closure. 6 conditions are focus on the personal, local, and immediate, isolate race, normalize social construction and multiple perspectives, monitor agreements and conditions throughout the meeting or throughout our time together and establish parameters, use a working definition of race, examine the presence and role of whiteness in any space. Next slide, please. So I just went over this, but the group agreements are stay engaged, speak your truth, experience discomfort, and accept non-closure. The next 3 slides will go over what the community engagements are and what those look like. If you guys could, if you hear one that you resonate with, drop it in the chat. Let us know which one you're going to be holding on to while we're spending our time together today. Actually, is there any way that I can ask a brave soul to read the first one and have us popcorn out?
Be mindful of airtime, take space, and make space.
Thank you. Next.
We have a hand. Jamie.
Use I statements, practice self-focus, attend to and speak about your own experience and responses. Do not speak for a whole group or express assumptions about the experience of others.
Call in love versus calling out with shame. Use restorative practices to maintain community and address conflicts.
Embrace vulnerability, discomfort, growth mindset. Uncomfortable does not equal unsafe. It may be an opportunity for growth.
Maintain confidentiality. Take away learnings, but don't identify anyone other than yourself to honor personal stories and experiences.
Practice mindful listening and compassion. Listen as.
Understand the difference between intent and impact. Try to understand and acknowledge the impact. Denying the impact of something said by focusing on intent is often more destructive than the interaction.
Both and speaking. In speaking, substitute and for but. This practice acknowledges and honors multiple perspectives.
Try it on. Be willing to try on new ideas or ways of doing things that might not be what you prefer or are familiar with.
Thank you so much, everyone who spoke up and read for me. I appreciate that. We try to find ways to keep Zoom engaging. I'm sure you guys understand. So please, if you can, pick one that you're going to hold on to, or one that resonated with you, or one that intrigues you. Drop it in the chat, and I'm going to pass it back to Sara.
So thank you to our volunteers for helping us review our community agreements really for the week while we're in spaces together, having conversation about race, being an anti-racist in our education system. We have to have safe spaces to have these conversations, right? Another thing that we're really trying to do is build community in these spaces and want to give folks an opportunity to really get to know each other. And there are quite a few people here. So instead of having an individual introduce themselves in the main space, what we're going to do is set up breakout spaces. And we just want you guys to get a chance to know each other a little bit. So just please, in your breakout spaces, share your name, the school that you work with or the schools that you work with, what your role at the school is, and a fun fact about yourself. So just take a moment to think about that fun fact while we are dividing you up into breakout spaces. And just know that we're very active in the chat. If there are questions or comments, please feel free to write in the chat. Our team will make sure that we're catching those, and we'll be interrupting the presenter if there are some questions. That type of thing. So just wanted to share that with you as well. So I'm going to stop sharing just while I'm getting the chat, the breakout groups together.
I want to appreciate everyone who dropped their agreement in the chat. We have call in with love. I'm seeing a lot. Speak from I perspective. Mindful listening, call in with love. Yes, those are all great things to hold on to. You guys are all amazing. Thank you. We have a member asking, please make sure they go with their ASL interpretive into the breakout room.
We will make sure we'll do that. Struggling with multi-pins. Do we need to pause for a minute to get the multi-pins together? No, we're good. Okay. Okay. So we'll give each person about a minute and a half to introduce themselves and share the fun fact. There are about 4 people in each group, and we'll make sure that we assign an ASL interpreter. Would you mind just letting me know in the chat if you need the ASL interpreter in your breakout space real quick, and then I can make sure that they go with you into your space. And we will make sure to drop the prompt into the chat as well. Oh, thank you for doing that, Samantha.
Somebody beat me to it.
Arcelia, thank you.
Arcelia is a rock star. There is nobody in room 4 with Andrea Gonzalez.
Okay, we probably,
I'll
there's
go.
Peter's in there.
Oh, maybe I'm just not. Oh no, okay, yeah, sorry.
No worries. We have 20 rooms. Do we know who needs the ASL interpretation?
Yes, we do. She's in room number 13.
Number 13. Okay, let me,
I'm gonna go join room 4.
okay, I'm gonna put, Teresa, I'm gonna put you in room 13, just a moment.
Thank you so much.
Hold on just a moment. Why can't I find your name? Oh, here we go. There we go. All right, Teresa.
And Lauren as well.
Lauren too.
Yeah,
Okay.
if you can send me to the same one, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Room 13. There you guys go. Good morning, Ryan and Tamika. We're just heading into breakout groups to do introductions, just your name, your school, your role, and a fun fact about yourself.
Okay, Sarah, let me get it together because I look a mess right now. I'll give myself a few minutes and then I'll turn my camera on. How about that?
No worries, it's
Any
totally
new
fine.
news? You're a new mom, right?
I am. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, I'll be back.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm good. Sorry, I'm a little late.
No worries at all. We just started some breakout groups. We're just doing some quick introductions. So yeah, so I'll move you to a group right now. There's someone by themselves. So I'm gonna move you into the group.
Okay.
I'm gonna put you in room 15.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you this morning? We just went into breakout groups to introduce ourselves. So I think I just assigned you to a breakout group, so feel free to join.
Hi, I'm back. I'm sorry, I accidentally went into the breakout room. Hi, so I'm just curious. So I actually can't attend this workshop, but I'm really interested in the topic. So I'm wondering how I can have access to the information.
We're going to, I can share the presentation with you right now in the chat. And then we're recording and there'll be a whole playlist of this week. The sessions for this week will be available publicly. And so you can also see it that way. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna get the link for you right now before you jump off. So here's a link to the actual presentation. It's in the chat and it's also being recorded. So Lailan Nguyen will make sure that she makes the videos accessible to everyone who attended. So that would be the way to access that.
Okay, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you, you too. Thank you. Good morning. If you're just joining us, we just went into breakout groups to do introductions. So I will place you in a breakout.
Good morning, Miss Sarah. I did already. I accidentally clicked on the leave room button. It was an accident.
No
But I
worries.
introduced myself.
What room were you in?
I don't remember. I just know that I was with Sarah and some other lady. I forgot her name.
Okay.
We were waiting on the interpreting, but I guess everybody's coming now.
We have about 3 more minutes. Some groups had about 4 people. So we just want to make sure folks get time.
Okay, that's
So feel free to take a bio break for 3. We have 3 minutes until folks come back. If you need to grab some coffee, some water. We have about 1 more minute left for folks to come back into the space. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back. I hope everyone had a chance to introduce themselves. All right, great. I think we have everyone back. So before we continue with the presentation, I just wanted to give maybe 2 or 3 folks a chance to share your name, your school, and a fun fact about yourself. And then I'll have our presenters introduce themselves in the larger space. Anyone want to share?
I'll share. Are we supposed to share our own one that we shared, or that somebody else shared?
I would say if you share what someone else shares, don't share their name unless you'd ask permission.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the one of the people that was in the group with me shared that they speak Spanish.
I'll be the brave soul today. My name is Sharon Cavazuto. I am a teacher on special assignment at Sojourner Truth. I help to oversee the middle school kiddos 6th through 8th. Fun fact is I am terrified of heights, but as I shared with my group, I try to move towards my fear. So I do things that someone who is typically afraid of heights wouldn't like to do. Not that I enjoy doing those things, but I love to parasail, go on roller coasters, and I am an avid traveler, but so afraid of heights. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Samantha, did you want to finish? Did you get a chance to share?
There was somebody in my group who shared that they speak Spanish, and if you look at them, it's not necessarily assumed that they would speak Spanish. And I just thought that that was fitting.
Great, great. Thank you guys for taking the time to introduce yourselves, to meet your colleagues in the district. I'm hoping that you're getting that opportunity in the other workshops as well, just to kind of build community. We're going to go ahead and continue on now. Before we do that, I just wanted to give my team a chance to introduce themselves. I know they did it in the smaller breakout groups, but they're going to be actually presenting. So I would love for the whole group to know who the team is. So maybe we'll start with, go alphabetically and start with Arcelia.
See, when people go alphabetically, I'm always the first one. Good morning, everyone. My name is Arcelia. I am the Family Engagement Specialist for Network 2 in the Office of Equity. I'm happy to be here, and I'll pass it to my colleague, Nicole.
Good morning, everyone. Nicole Wiggins, work out of Office of Equity. I'm the Family Engagement Specialist for high school, also a parent of 2 scholars that graduated from OUSD Public Schools. And I would pass it to the beautiful Samantha.
You're so sweet. Thank you, Nicole. Hello, everyone. Samantha Fenwick. I'm a parent of a scholar at CCPA, and I am Network 3 Family Engagement Specialist for elementary schools. And is that our whole team? I can't see everybody.
I think that's it for, that's it for today. We are missing 2 folks who couldn't be here. And I'm hoping that during the year, you'll have an opportunity to hear from them. One is Manera Mosen and the other is Karina Nájera. So we're just missing a couple folks. They're here in spirit. Loving the chat. I'm reading that someone wrote a children's book, Go Eaters, School for Bullies. I love that. Keep it coming in the chat. I love learning about people, the fun facts. Super awesome. All right, so we're gonna get back to the presentation. So one thing I like to highlight, I'm not ever sure in a workshop how many folks are from Oakland or familiar with Oakland. So one thing I like to do is just kind of name that part of what OUSD is taking on is really integrating ourselves in the social justice movement. And Oakland is a city that has a long and deep history for social justice. And we're definitely standing on the shoulders of those who came before us in the movement, right? So I always like to acknowledge ancestors, community, family, folks who came before us that kind of paved the way for us to be where we're at today, right? So with that, I would like to introduce, for those of you who don't know, Fred Hampton was a leader in the Black Panther movement, which started here in Oakland, California, something that we are very proud of. And one thing I like to highlight about Fred Hampton is that while he was a leader, a chairman of the Illinois chapter for the Black Panther Party, he also started the Rainbow Coalition. So he believed that while he did the work for liberating Black people, for his community, that it was really important to be in solidarity with other folks, with other communities who are also fighting for social justice. And that's something that is part of what the Office of Equity is all about. We have targeted initiatives, but we work on those initiatives together in solidarity. While we're focused on particular groups of people, we want to work together so that the work of social justice benefits everyone. So I would love to ask for a volunteer just to read this quote from Fred Hampton. Would anybody like to read?
We've got to face the fact that some people say you fight fire best with fire. But we say you put fire out best with water. We say you don't fight racism with racism. We're going to fight racism with solidarity. for
Thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you reading that. And just wanting to steep folks in the rich history of activism and organizing in Oakland. Recently, we've had a family engagement fellow, a parent that we're working with, take a group of young people from her school, young girls, to go see a home in West Oakland that's dedicated to the women in the Black Panther movement. So if you guys get a chance, maybe we can get the details on that for you to go check out. But I just like to name that. We're continuing on this work. And just to kind of introduce the department a little bit, we are Meaningful Family Engagement. That's who you are here with this morning. We work across all targeted initiatives. We work with meaningful student engagement as well. And we're really standing on the shoulders of our longest standing targeted initiative, which is African American Male Achievement, which was started back in 2010. So that program has been running for about 12 years. And since that time, we've been able to establish African American female excellence, Latino student achievement, and Asian Arab Pacific Islander achievement as well. I'm actually missing, I have a new logo that I need to add here. I apologize for that. If you'd like to learn more just about our department and the work that we do in Oakland, you can go ahead and scan the QR code that'll take you to our website where you can learn a little more about who we are. So I like to start with kind of defining equity. And I know that there was a definition shared day one, and this complements that. It's very similar. So can I have a volunteer also just read, what is equity?
What is equity? Just and fair inclusion. An equitable society is one in which all can participate and prosper. The goals of equity must be to create conditions that allow all to reach their full potential. Equity creates a path from hope to change.
Thank you so much for reading that. So one thing I like to clarify for folks is that equity doesn't mean that every student gets the exact same thing. It means that they get what they need to be not just included, but to feel liberated, right? And so I love this visual because it really explains that. You know, in the first picture, you see that the children are different heights. And if you give them all the same box to stand on, it doesn't, the shortest person still can't see. So kind of to the point, you don't need to give the taller person the box, right? It's like they have what they need to look over the fence. And so we're really approaching the work that way in Oakland Unified. What do students need individually and as groups to be successful in our educational system? So I like to just kind of get us a little bit steeped in what we mean by equity here in Oakland Unified. So what gets in the way of our best intentions for achieving equity? And part of that is deficit thinking. And we like to share this quote from Zaretta Hammond, who's an educator, an author, a parent, someone who's actually worked with our department to help build our family engagement programming. And she's done a lot of research on, with a focus particularly on Black students. And what she's found is that our deficit mindsets is really what gets in the way of our best intentions for achieving equity. So I'm not going to read through the whole quote or ask someone to, but I wanted to share it with you because we really want to name that we tend to sometimes blame students and families when we're not experiencing success, but that's operating from a deficit mindset. So we wanted to name that, right? And sometimes it's not easy to see, right? Sometimes it's a belief that someone has, and the actions that then come from that belief aren't always easy to recognize. So what we're trying to do in Oakland Unified really is make the invisible visible, and really naming that deficit mindset is a barrier to achieving equity. And just kind of be thinking about what does that look like if you've been teaching already or your experience in school. Just be thinking about what that looked like for you, and how we're going to talk about how we can interrupt that a little bit. And so we know that deficit mindset really comes from 3 layers of systemic bias. It comes from our country kind of being built on this notion around colonization, right? So there are different layers to systemic bias. We have the institutional layer, right? So that speaks to the manifestation of bias in organizations like our own, within different groups, within the legal system, that then kind of trickles down into an internalized manifestation of bias within oneself. So how the process of people starting to believe the narratives, the negative narratives about themselves. And then the internalized is like how that shows up between people, right? And so we're really trying to work to interrupt each layer of systemic bias in OUSD. And while we've done a lot of that work and are really building the foundation, we do have a ways to go. You can definitely see that in our data when you see our graduation rates. And if you look at who needs most support with reading, literacy, you can see that there is some, while we've come a long way, there's work to do. So part of the way that we're trying to interrupt inequity is by having policies in our school district that will support working towards equity. So we actually have an equity policy, and we're currently working on administrative regulations for that. And what that basically means, what administrative regulations are, it details how we're going to implement the policy with training, with support, that type of thing. We instituted the George Floyd policy really right after the George Floyd movement. We were able to eliminate OPD from our schools. We had Oakland police at many of our schools, and they no longer are. So really this notion of not wanting to police our young people, particularly our Black and Brown students. And this was led by the Black Organizing Project. So this was a community initiative, and it's now a policy on our books. We've also, we're working to transform our security officer position. We've renamed it to culture ambassadors or culture keepers, and have really started to train them around techniques with restorative justice, de-escalation, really wanting students to see them as a safe person to go to when they're experiencing challenges on campus. We also have a Black reparations policy. This was also led and organized by community. And this particular policy is really addressing ways that the school district can repair harm that's been done over the years, particularly to Black students. But we're looking at all subgroups and really trying to address the harm and wanting to repair that harm. So these are just a few policies that exist in Oakland Unified that I think are unique and important. And one thing I do need to name is that while we have these policies, kind of like I said before in the earlier slide, there is a ways to go. You know, it's a start. We have not achieved, you know, equity for all. And that's really the work that lies ahead of us and why we're all really here this week. So we're going to talk a little bit, kind of understanding what we mean by equity and kind of understanding the direction that the district's going in to be an anti-racist school district. We're going to talk a little bit about conditions and practices for strong family partnership. So what I like to share is that we've adopted the dual capacity building framework for school partnership. This was designed by Dr. Karen Mapp, who has studied family school partnerships over 10 years now. Basically, what this framework addresses is the need to both support educators and staff at schools in building their capacity to work with families and partner with families, but also to work with families to build their own capacity to also partner. So Partnership, I think we sometimes assume just comes naturally to some folks. And I know that when educators are going through credentialing programs, they're not necessarily getting classes on how to build those relationships, best practice. So we see that as a gap that we want to fill and support teachers, staff, principals with, but also on our families. And we know that it's not always easy for families to partner with schools. Many of our families went to our schools, didn't have the best experiences, and are sending their children to us with some of that trauma. We also have a lot of families who maybe didn't have education or are from other countries or had a really different experience in their own countries with education. And so what we try to do is orient families to what it means to be a parent of a public school student and the rights and responsibilities they have to be engaged and to partner with the school, right? One thing I just want to call out on this slide is that we're really focused on process conditions. And basically, these are conditions necessary to have a thriving family engagement, family partnership structure at your site. So we'll share more of this later in the year. We're going to offer some follow-up training. But I just want to name them. So the first is that it needs to be any structure or practice that you're thinking of in terms of family engagement should be relational and built on mutual trust. It should be linked to learning and development of the student, be asset-based, kind of building on strengths of the student and community, culturally responsive and respectful, collaborative and interactive, right? So these are just some things to keep in mind as you're thinking about family engagement and ways that you can build stronger relationships with families. So this kind of, we took this from Dr. Karen Mapp from the framework, but basically there are a lot of different activities that we can do with our families. And here we have kind of low impact and high impact. And what that means is linked to learning. So some strategies have a higher impact that have a more direct impact on student learning, and other activities that maybe have a lower impact on student learning. One thing I want to say is that I right under low impact, you'll see celebrations. So one thing I want to name is celebrations are very important, particularly to build school culture and climate, a healthy school culture and climate. So what I don't want people to walk away with is thinking like, oh, we're not supposed to do celebrations or potlucks or performances and showcases. But if you are doing those things, how can you incorporate some more high impact strategies, right? So you can see on the high impact, in the high impact area towards the right under the blue, sharing weekly data folders. In Oakland Unified, we do parent-teacher home visits, and it's one of our longest and strongest best practices over the last 10 years. Modeling of learning support strategies for families, so giving parents tools to support their student at home, right? So while you're looking at these things, I just want you to know all of these things are important. But when you're doing the celebrations or the fundraisers or the potlucks, really be thinking about how can I possibly integrate something more linked to student learning during the celebration or during the potluck, right? So just things to think about in terms of high impact on student outcome and low impact on student outcome. So what I'm going to do now is pass it over to my colleague, Nicole.
Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone. Nicole Wiggins again. And just a few things we're going to go through when we talk about our anti-racist partnership mindset and our core beliefs. So one of them is all parents have dreams for their children and want the best for them. And we mentioned that because we got to understand that we do have parents that have dreams for their children, and we want the best of them. And we want to make sure that we encourage and we believe this is what parents want. All parents can support their child, their children learning. This is also true. Partnerships with families are essential to academic achievement. And the last one, the responsibility for building partnership between schools and home rests on all staff, including the principal.
Thank you,
And Sarah, can
Nicole.
you go to the next slide? Thank you.
We're going to do a quick poll before we go to the next slide. So
Okay.
the reason why we want to do a poll is that this may be the first time that you're looking at our core beliefs in terms of a mindset for family engagement. And sometimes when we do this in in-person trainings, we have an activity where we want to know if educators agree or disagree with these statements and have a little time to discuss. So I'm going to put a poll. It's an anonymous poll, and I'm going to launch it. And just take a few minutes to answer, and then I'll share the results before we move on. So go ahead and just take a couple minutes. Think about how these core beliefs are landing with you. And we're going to open it up just to hear from a couple folks. If you disagree, I want to say that that's okay. It's an opportunity for us to talk. Sometimes I've heard teachers disagreeing with maybe all parents can support their child's learning based on their experience with families. I'll give folks just another minute. Okay, I'm gonna close the poll in 30 seconds. Okay, we've ended the poll. I'm going to share the results just to kind of see where our group is at. Can you guys see the results? Thumbs up?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to go through, I'll just kind of scroll through each question so you can kind of see the results. So it looks like we have a variety of answers, which is super healthy. So you can kind of see for question 2, question 3, or statement 3, core belief 3, and the 4th core belief. So I want to just give maybe 1 or 2 people a chance to share how this is landing with them. How does this resonate with you, the core beliefs? If anyone wants to share how they scored or the answers that they chose, just want to open up a little bit of space. And it looks like Yari raised their hand. Yari?
So what I want to say is that broadly, I think I agree on all 4 points. I would strongly agree on all 4 points. I think that when turning these into realities, what I find is that there's like additions to each sentence. So perhaps to say all parents have dreams for their children and want the best for them, and what the parents dream for their child and what I see as a dream for their child may not match up. Or all parents can support their children's learning, yes, and what that may look like is also based off of the skills and needs of each parent and supports that they have and the time that they have. So while they can, it again may not necessarily be everything that that child needs, but that doesn't diminish the fact that they can. Like, it's seeing the parents as assets is what I feel like is the underlying message of these points. And then when bringing them into reality is where there's complications, but there's complications for everything I try to bring into reality too.
Thank you so much for sharing that and saying that, Yari. That's absolutely true. And you're right. Really, the point of this is like when we're thinking about family engagement and we're thinking about being asset-based, that these core beliefs are so important. And we know that as we try on certain structures or try to partner with families, that we're going to be met with some of the challenges that they experience. So I really appreciate you naming that. Especially in Oakland, and especially during this time where we have gas prices at almost $7, where we have rising rent, where people almost can't afford to live in the city, or doubling up multiple families in households, parents working multiple jobs. There's so many barriers, right? And so part of our job is to figure out, how to meet them where they're at, right? And that we know all parents have the capacity, but that they may be experiencing some challenges, right, in meeting us, right? So I really appreciate you naming that, Yari. That's so important.
Sarah, we have 2 more people with their hands raised.
Yes.
Patricia, go ahead, and then I'll get to Miss Vanya. I hope I said that correctly. If not, let me know. So Patricia and then Miss Vanya.
Thank you.
Well, I'm thinking, yes, you're right. You're exactly where I was thinking too. Especially with bullet point 2, all parents can have the ability, and I get it, right? There are like barriers in the way, like gas prices and stuff like that. But I feel like in theory, this makes a lot of sense, right? They do have, right? They can, but then there are some parents, and I'm going to separate the ones who have the barriers and obstacles from the ones who perhaps don't. I mean, it makes sense, right? I take my child to school, but at the same time, I don't take them to school every day. I just feel like having an off day, so my kid could have an off day. Homework, small work, you know what I mean? Like, let the teacher deal with that, And there are parents like that who effectively are sabotaging their child's learning and education.
Thank you for stating that, Patricia.
Ms. Vanya.
I similar as what they're saying in terms of looking at the core beliefs. They may not, it may seem that doesn't match sometimes, but just keep that in mind when we encounter parents that seems that what they're doing is opposite of what's best for their child, that is just not thinking that they don't want the best, but that maybe what they think is best doesn't match what may be the best, and just go from that perspective that they do intend to do the best, and just try to provide data, provide different things, a partner with them in different ways to, to maybe change the way they're approaching, and to show that other things might work better, or like just not to look at them like they don't want the best and I know what's the best. I think that's just to stay away from that. And from that mindful that we teachers know the best. I had 3 kids that went through OUSD, and I did not agree with the teachers every time. And just be mindful of that parents coming from different backgrounds, different perspectives, and just when we don't align with them, just assume they want the best, not assume, they don't know or they don't want the best.
Thank you. I think we have time for one more person. I see Stephanie's hand up.
Hi, good morning. I was really unpacking the word can when we're saying that parents can support. Can means being able to do something. And I think that support can be in different forms. There are parents that may not have the educational background to be able to support their children helping out with homework. However, support can be something as simple as just making sure that their children are doing the homework.
Can't hear you.
Ms. Trap, you went out.
Oh, and she froze.
Sorry, Stephanie, we just lost the sound for a moment.
Parent actually is not able due to some, unusual circumstances. It could be a mental health issue. It could be a physical health issue. And until some, family member or family friend can step in and maybe help out with that, then there's situations where the parent just is not able to be supportive in that way. So I think if we can acknowledge both of those things, I think we're on to something. That's all I have.
Thank you, Stephanie. No, agreed. And I think, to some of the points that you're all naming, it's important for us to believe these things, and we're going to be met with challenges where we're not necessarily seeing it. And as long as we don't let some of those challenges kind of cloud our belief that families can and do have the capacity, and maybe it's just kind of building the relationship with them to help be on the same page with how to support their young person, right? And it's a lot of work, and we're not always going to be able to build the types of relationships we want with families, right? But it's something that we don't want to give up the asset mindset, right? The growth mindset of really believing that families can, and really kind of thinking through what that looks like for each family and trying to meet them where they're at in a way that works for yourself as an educator as well, right? So I appreciate you guys sharing. I'm going to move us on only because I want to be mindful of time. So if you do have a comment, please feel free to share in the chat. We can continue this in the chat. I'm going to pass it back to Nicole for the next slide.
Thank you, Sarah. So as we go on, it is important as a family engagement specialist, I do support the building a relationship, engaging parents, and building that capacity at the school site. So I do kind of encourage principal, admins, teachers, when we working with the parents, is good and authentic to be authentic and have them involved and engaged, right? That way they can feel part. If they feel part of the school, feel welcome, that makes them want to participate more. So some of the things how we can get parents involved when we build in parent community partnership for our learning and continuous improvement, these are some of the examples. So for instance, the first one shows a picture, says, I'm involved in my child's education. So that's just the basic level, which that's coming to the parent-teacher conference, that's coming to back to school nights, registration, and so forth. Parents also have the right to be involved in many ways at the school site and in the district. And then when we saying I'm involved in my child's school, that means when they're on the ground, they're part of the SSC, which is the school site council, which is a place parents can, be involved with shared decision-making. And then they can help with the budget. And then they can have a voice to help shape their school for the needs of students. I have plenty of parents that sit on SSC. I was a parent sitting on SSC myself, and I see the improvement that you can make at your school to make sure we have the best outcomes for our students. Next level, a broader way to get parents involved. Parents have the right to be involved in the broader school community. We have so many community partners in our community that our parents can be part of as well while they're working in the schools and they're advocating for their student. To just give some examples, we have BOP, Black Organizing Project. We have Area Plan. We have Faith in Action, was former OCO. So these are community partners that parents can be involved. So we should also give those resources out to our parents to make sure that they are staying connected in the community as well, to their neighborhood, to their school. So that's important as well. And not at least, but you can do district-wide. So when we talk about district-wide, we want parents to be involved. Example, our LCAP. Our LCAP is our local control and accountability plan. This is the driver's seat that's connected to our SSC. parents can join, and that way they have voices and to help make changes, change that narrative on our students' outcome. The LCAP is the tool to set goals, to plan actions, to leverage the resources to meet those goals for our student outcome. And then we have the body inside our LCAP, where else parents have the choice to be on the committee. We have our CAC, that's our committee advisory committee for, and this specializes on students with disability. We had our DELS, our District English Language Learners Subcommittee. We have our foster youth advisory committee, and then we added the two more, which we have CB's committee to empower Black students' excellence. And then we have our Latino advisory group. And then we have our PSAC, the Parent Student Advisory Committee. So these are all committees within our LCAP, which parents could sit on. I think it just gives a greater voice and just empower our parents to know that they can advocate for their child so they can be successful. And so that's what we got to continue, disengaging our parents at the school site. And that's how we do that while building relationships in our community too.
Thank you, Nicole. So this is, I think, also very unique to Oakland, is our leadership pathway for families. And I highly, highly encourage all of you to think about being a part of your school site council, which is a place that monitors the site plan. And Nicole mentioned the LCAP, which is our local control accountability plan. So we have a parent body at the district level that is informing and making recommendations to our superintendent about that plan. And they're connected back to their school site councils. And so this coming year, we're going to offer a lot of support for school site councils. So just be thinking about that this year as you start the year. If you've never been on it, maybe take the opportunity to serve on it for a year or two to see what that's like and to work with parents on that particular committee. Thank you, Nicole. All right. We're going to go into breakout groups, but I want to say a little bit about our equity learning questions, right? These are questions that we lift in different PD spaces. You might have seen these maybe in a different workshop, but they're questions that we like to use to start to unpack how to make how to really lift this notion of equity and have it in our forefront of our mind, and starting to think about how to interrupt deficit thinking, whether it be within yourself or a colleague. How are we as adults kind of doing this work, right? So as the Office of Equity, we're specifically charged with infusing the entire system with asset-based practices. And these practices, our intention is to have them directly interrupt disproportionality, bias, racism, deficit thinking that cause disproportionality in discipline, in achievement, right? We're also charged with increasing social emotional learning mindset with equity, right, of all the adults in our system. So it's really on us to model the expectations that we have of our young people. And sometimes we skip over the supporting of adults piece and go straight to the students and what we want from the students, but don't pause to take the time to do the work ourselves, right, to model what we're expecting for our young people, right? So we've started this journey with our teachers, with principals, with staff, with families across our system, and are integrating these learning questions that we're hoping will promote cognitive dissonance, right? To be in dialogue about this and ultimately shift mindset and improve our asset-based practices. So that's the whole intention of this, right? In the classroom, in our buildings, at the central office level, with our students and families. So this is the work of the entire school district, right? So just take a moment to kind of read through. We're going to do breakout groups again to give folks a chance to kind of dialogue about these questions. How do we make the invisible visible? It's not always easy to see deficit thinking or to be able to name that. it's something that we've been used to maybe being dismissive of. Maybe some of you are champions about making the invisible visible, right? But really thinking about what are those things that we're seeing in our own practice with our colleagues or on our school campuses with our colleagues, our team. How do we build empowering narratives of our students and families? So we know that our families do go through a lot, and someone was naming how sometimes it seems like our families may be sabotaging their students' education, right? What's underneath that? What's at the root of that, right? And how do we not let that become the narrative for all of our students and families, right? How do we shift and build empowering narratives, right? And counter that deficit thinking? What are some ways that we can do that? And then if you're a teacher or work with young people or families, how are you integrating student and families' cultural and linguistic assets with learning, right? Even if they're from a different culture from ourselves, maybe speak another language. What are some ways that you do that in your current practice? Or maybe what are some ways you might have seen or can be thinking of now, right? So just take a few moments to read through the questions, and I'm going to drop them into broadcast them when you're in your small breakout. And I'm going to put folks in breakouts now. So I'm going to stop sharing just to do that. Any questions or comments while I'm organizing the breakout groups? Okay. So I'm going to open up the rooms. We're going to be in our rooms for about 5 minutes. If a group seems particularly small, I may add someone new to your space. So I'm going to go ahead and open up our rooms, and we'll be in the breakout space for about 5 minutes just to start some dialogue about these questions. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me start this over, guys. That did not work. Why did that not work? Let's see.
It looks like it's working. There's 20 rooms with 3 each, I believe.
All right, I don't think I can stop it now. I had hit close, so I think I'm gonna have to restart. I'm sorry, everyone. It looked like it was putting people into 2 separate groups at first, which is gonna be way too many people. I'll restart it, I apologize.
We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Thank you, Jalen, for coming back.
In 8 seconds, I'll be able to start them again. I apologize, everyone.
There was some chatter in the chat around SSCs and wanting to understand the opportunities for parents to be involved. Sarah, are there any like trainings or anything that are scheduled around SSCs or how to join LCAP or what that looks like?
Yes, and I'll address that maybe when we come back. I'll put folks, I want to apologize for those of you just coming back. It looked like you were going to be separated into just 2 groups, which would have been way too many people. So I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try to put folks in your rooms again, and then we'll address some of the SSC questions when we come back. So here we go, guys, trying again.
There was a room with only 1 person, so I moved them to a different room that only had 2.
Thank you.
Hi there, everybody. So I came in late, so I might not, I don't see that I've been invited to a group yet, but I came in late, so.
No
We
worries. We
put
can,
you in one.
yeah, we'll assign you. No worries.
Thank you.
Do you mind signing me into a breakout room as well?
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Me too, please.
We got you guys. We see that you're not assigned, so we're gonna assign you here. Okay, it looks like we got everybody assigned.
Hey, sorry, the interpreter's here.
Oh,
My
let's-
room says 13, and I don't think that matches what Erica was assigned.
Is it Erica Noble?
Mhm.
Okay, room 2. I'll put you guys in room 2. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Oh, you're totally fine.
There you go. Yep, you did it.
Yes, every group has, except for group 18, 3 to 4 people. Room 18 has 2 people, so they'll probably be joining us sooner than later.
Okay.
Where's Daddy?
At work. Oh, Connor, what room did you say was only had 2?
Room 20, I believe. Let me go down. No, I'm
Hi.
sorry, room 18.
18, okay.
I don't know where I was. My room, everything went black and you were gone. I
No
think
worries.
11. Oh, 18. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
See you in a minute. Okay, let me set my timer. I know 5 minutes is a little short, but I just want to make sure we have enough time.
And some breakout rooms are pretty big and some others are pretty small.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Because there were people that weren't assigned, so Sarah and I were going through assigning people, and then I guess we assigned some people to the same rooms.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest is room 2, but all the others have 3 to 4 people.
But room 2, 2 of those people aren't participants.
They're interpreters. Yeah.
So it looks like there's more than. So there's really only 4 people in that room, or 5, 4 or 5.
Hi, Nate.
Hi, Nate.
Hey, sorry, my Wi-Fi cut out right as we were going into breakout rooms.
No worries.
Room
Thank
17. I'm gonna put you into room 17. Is that okay?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nope.
So I need to add the questions to the broadcast, the questions, sorry.
I already did it twice.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
You want to
Loving it.
pause the recording while they're in the breakout rooms?
Yes, can you just remind me? All right, we have about 10 seconds before everyone comes back. Welcome back to the space. Sorry.
I was gonna say the same thing. Fine. All right, welcome back, everyone. I know that that wasn't a whole lot of time, but hopefully you were able to start some conversation in your breakout groups. And what we would like to do is just give folks a chance to share maybe something that came up in your group that you'd like to share with the larger group around these questions.
The group I was in, it was an incredible experience. As I shared with them their awareness of how deficit language is hidden in your written material, as well as your thoughts, and being more aware of that, but also recognizing dual language, a second language is a superpower, and having really an asset-based mindset. I told them it was very inspirational to be a part of their group.
Thank you, Jerome. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else would like to share maybe what came up in your space?
I'll share something that my group kind of finished up on. And one had shared how in her class, it seemed like families were reprioritizing their learning for the students versus a football traveling team. And the students that were traveling.
We lost you just for a moment, Leon. We can't hear you for some reason.
Wait. Okay. So I saw, sorry, Leon, we lost your sound. We can't hear you.
Okay.
So I saw Yari's hand and then Peter Leahy, and then we'll go ahead and keep it moving to respect time.
Regarding
Go ahead, Yari.
invisible visible, our group talked about surveying parents at the beginning of the year and asking about language and holidays, skills, work, student strengths and needs, talking about home visits, that sort of thing.
Thank you, Yari.
So our group noticed or came with some good ideas. So more training for parents on school systems like Power School or Aries or whatever the grade system, Google Classroom, to allow them to have more access to what's going on digitally. Also countering deficit thinking, just kind of offering alternate stories of student success and just appreciation when deficit thinking comes up, and from families or colleagues, yeah, so that was cool. And also having in-school events like student, authentic audiences with parents, and giving students the opportunity to engage their parents more with presentations or projects.
That's great. Thank you. Did we have one more person, I think? No, that's it. Okay, great, great. I really appreciate you guys being in conversation with each other in your small spaces, and then being brave and sharing some of what was discussed. It's important to learn from each other, and sharing is a way to do that. And we really want to try to make sure this space feels safe enough for folks to share. So I appreciate you guys doing that. With that, we're going to continue on, and I'm going to pass it to Samantha, and I'll pull up the slides, Samantha.
Make sure you share your sound. Hi, everyone. So some examples of what we are talking about looks like in practice. One of the tools that we use and that we try to introduce is called reframing. Reframing is the act of changing a question or statement so that the perspective shifts, sometimes from a negative to a positive. Reframing can also provide an entirely different set of solutions to a question or problem. So an example of negative or deficit thinking would be something like, this parent always complains about children bothering their child. Like, it's really annoying, they're always complaining, they don't have any solutions, right? But a way to shift that and think of it in a more positive light, which can help create empathy and help you connect with the parent to try and come up with a solution, would be the parent loves her child or his child and wants to make sure that the child is safe and cared for in the school environment. Parents often walk in with educational trauma due to their experiences in the system. So they're sensitive about how their children are treated while at school. And so that's one way. Another one, the one that hits close to home for me is the student never looks me in the eye. I had an experience with a student where he had done something on campus at recess. And when I was speaking to him, trying to have a conversation about his behavior and how his behavior impacts other people, he wouldn't look at me. In my culture, when you are talking to a child, they should look you in the eye because that's respectful, right? Looking down or looking away is considered like they're not paying attention. It's not respectful. When I asked him, why are you not looking me in the eye when I speak to you? He told me, in my culture, in my home, it's considered disrespectful to look an adult in the eye when they're speaking to you. So that kind of like took me back. Like, we need to be culturally responsive and really think about that kind of stuff. There are other examples here, but I'm going to go ahead and keep us moving to the next slide. This is one that I actually heard today. This parent doesn't make sure their student submits assignments. They must not care. When in reality, a lot of our parents are dealing with a lot outside of the classroom, just like we are, right? So another way of thinking about it would be, this parent works 2 jobs and is finding it difficult to keep up with their students' assignments. So that doesn't necessarily put anybody, it doesn't put the teacher in a place where they have to solve the problem for the family, but it creates a mindset of understanding where you would be, where somebody might be more open to coming up with creative solutions to make sure that that student is getting everything that they need, considering what's going on at home. Or the other one is, this parent is constantly criticizing my teaching style. They must not like me, taking it personally. When in reality, school looks very different from even just when I was in school. How we do math is a huge one that's changed. And so teaching is very different from when this parent was in school, and they're doing their best to understand and be involved in their students' learning. And understanding that a lot of times when people are met with stuff that they don't understand, or that is intimidating, or something that they struggled with as a child, a lot of times that can be met with what looks like attitude or looks like anger, when really they're just confused or feeling vulnerable and not knowing how to ask for help. So trying to restate, like, trying to shift your mindset will then open you up to more solutions and better partnership. Next. So reframing is more than just a thought process, though that is where it begins. Next is to match actions to your thoughts. Moving from a passive to active standpoint is a great place to start. Some examples are, I really doubt I'll be able to do anything about this. Students not turning in their homework. I really doubt I'll be able to do anything about this. And then a way to like change that into an active role is to take one small step toward the goal. So you might not be able to get them from not turning in anything to turning in every assignment on time every time, but you can have a conversation with a parent, or you can have a conversation with a student or a family member that supports the student, and find one small thing that would help this student be able to feel successful. If that might be allowing time during class time for them to work on their homework, because when they get home, they're watching their younger siblings, or, you know, mom's sick and can't help them, so they need a little extra help, trying to hook them up with resources or spend time with them to help them through stuff like that. We've always done it this way, right? There are things in the district where it's like, this is just how it's always been. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just how it always is. Like, you just jump on and go with the status quo. A way to disrupt that is, what are the reasons for having always done it this way? And is it really working? Is it working for us? Is it working for families? Is it working for students? If not, what can we do to change it? And I feel like the district does, people in the district do a good job naming things that need to change. Taking one small step, like if everybody took one small step to change things, then it would make a massive change. Yeah, so that's passive to active. And I'm gonna pass it back to Sara, I believe.
Yes, I'm just gonna help transition us. We're actually going to pass it to Arcelia, and she's going to talk a little bit more about how we promote a mindset of partnership, and actually talk about some concrete structures to support welcoming environment for families at the beginning of the year, and to start to get you thinking a little bit about how you're going to build relationships with family and maintain communication throughout the year. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Arcelia.
Thank you, Sara. And thank you all for all your comments and experiences in the chat. It's just kind of hard to keep up with all the knowledge and the great things that you're sharing. So talking about a welcoming environment, many of us who work with supporting families and students, staff, administrators, we always think about what would be the best way to welcome families, right? Thinking about being culturally responsive and meeting people where they are. So how are we planning, or how are you planning to welcome your students in August? Welcome your families, right? There's a lot of options and a lot of tools that we can share or that we can talk about. One that is very dear to my heart is something I really love to do and promote a lot is the parent-teacher home visits, right? There's a lot of home visits, and I'm so glad that Jamie and Lolly is here from Frick because she is a great advocate for this model, for this program. So I highly encourage teachers, staff, principals to look into applying this model, this program to your schools. The parent-teacher home visits is a great option. It's a great tool and resource practice so that you can meet families, learn about them, and share, be consistent with that communication. So in order for you to be at their level, you also need to share. So you can't do that in that space. Obviously, phone calls, text messages, and emails. Being online is something that we did a lot in the past 2 years. We shared everything using a lot of platforms, our websites. And I feel like many people is forgetting about mail, right? Snail mail. So I highly encourage to also use that tool, sending people some postcards or just a quick note. That is very useful too. Many people struggle with translation, right? So in the Office of Equity, we also hold the interpretation translation department. And in the slide, I don't know if Samantha can actually drop the link to the translation request in the chat. Thank you. So people can have it for future events, meetings, anything that you're planning to. If you know that you're going to need interpretation, that's another tool that we offer. Just make sure that you use the engagement opportunities to recruit volunteers. It's another resource that we encourage you to, right? Don't miss that opportunity when you have families over, when you're holding a potluck or something like that. Prepare yourself to, to have people sign up for volunteer opportunities. I also included the link to the Ed Fund, which is an organization that helps with the process for volunteers as well. If you have the slide deck, you will be able to have access to those links. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. To continue talking about our welcoming environment, how are you planning on going two-way communication with families? How often and for what purposes? So sometimes we, as educators, we keep sending home notes, text messages, like I mentioned before, newsletters probably, or using a platform, right? But what about coming back? Like, do you get something back? Do you establish a two-way communication with families? How often do you use it and what's the purpose? So these are another set of ideas that we encourage you to use. The family teacher conferences, Parent Square. I know everyone probably is familiar with Parent Square by now. Newsletters, like I mentioned before, you can send your own newsletters or you can be included in the school newsletter. But if the school doesn't have a newsletter, I also encourage you to start thinking about sending one. That's a great way of communicating with families. classroom meetings with families. There's also a system that is very successful where schools have adopted a program or system called classroom reps or room parents. So that is another way of keeping that two-way communication with families. Again, let us know if you need any support or you need any resources. We can definitely support you with that. And back to school night. I know back to school night is a huge event and we always get ready for that event, but how does your back to school night look like? Do you think it's very likely that it looks the same for almost everyone? Well, I have a very short clip to show you and you might be shocked. It's a very long video, but I linked it to be very short so that we can just hear the last part of it. This video clip is by our family engagement guru, Dr. Karen Mapp, Harvard graduate, and she's just letting us know something to think about before you plan your back to school night. So Sarah, if you don't mind showing us
Grammarly helps you work more efficiently, which makes accomplishing your work goals easier than ever before.
But we don't do it. So I'm going to give you an example. How many of you have been to a school open house ever in your lives? Oh, a whole lot of you, right? And I bet you just can't wait to turn off Scandal to go to an open house. I don't think so. And let's talk about why not, okay? So if I'm a parent and I'm going to an open house, what do I usually do first? Where do I go? Auditorium, right? Cafeteria. Who's talking to me? Principal. About what? Oh, rules. How exciting. What kinds of rules? Attendance.
Dress.
Busing.
Dress.
Dress code. Discipline. Okay. Sounds great, doesn't it? All right. Okay, so do I get to talk? No. All right. Where am I going next? After we go into the auditorium, where am I going next? Classroom. Who's talking to me now? About what? More rules. What kind of rules? Homework? Behavior? Okay. Do I get to learn as a parent a new tip or a tool, or do I get to practice something that helps support my kids' learning? Not usually. Do the teachers get to hear from me about what I know about my kid that might help them be a better teacher to my child? No. So guess what? 15,000 or more of these open houses occur on any given night in the United States, and we blow it. We blow it because it's not linked to learning. Very simple idea, and I want you to repeat it with me. Ready? Linked to learning. That's my big idea. That's what I try to do, and I am on a personal quest to change every open house in this United States of America. Thank you.
So it's lovely.
Thank you, Karen Mapp, for grounding us in what actually family engagement looks like. This is just a very short piece of the 7 to 8 minute video, which is great. I encourage you to watch everything. And you can look her up. Karen Mapp, like I said before, she is our family engagement guru. And I just love watching and listening to what she has to share with us. So now I'm just going to leave you with that thought of how your back to school night looks like every year. And is it going to look the same this coming year? And with that, I'm going to pass it to Sara again so that we can continue.
Thank you so much, Arcelia. And I just want to name that if you see something highlighted in blue, for example, the family teacher conferences, if you click on that, it's going to take you to a tool that you could use during your family teacher conference, where it gives you an opportunity or a structure to have that two-way communication. that's asset-based. So I just wanted to let you know, if you see a link, click on it, explore it. And if it's a tool that you like, please feel free to copy it, use it. And like Arcelia mentioned, there's a team of us here for your support after this training. So if you're thinking through or want some thought partnership on how to create a welcoming environment or how to establish your two-way communication for the year, please feel free to reach out to us. Another resource for you to be aware of is OUSD has a website called OUSD Family Central, and it's somewhat of a one-stop shop for families to access all types of information, both academics, but also for health and wellness, right? So I wanted you to have the link to that for you to explore. You may have already been introduced to Teacher Central. So we try to mirror what's on Teacher Central and make it family facing for, something that's easy for families to read and digest and access. So we have those two websites. You can go into curriculum and see milestones for every grade level, examples of the types of books that students are reading at particular grade levels. We use the milestones in literacy workshops with families to kind of help orient them to what is expected of my child in first grade or in sixth grade or in 10th grade, right? And so just wanted to expose you to just another resource that we have here in OUSD. So we want to pause. We know folks have been asking questions throughout the presentation. This is really just an opportunity for us to share our framework and to introduce ourselves to you and to let you know that we're here for your support with family engagement. So I just want to open up some questions, and then I want to also share with you that we have, this is the team, this is part of the slide deck. You might not know what network you're in. That's totally fine. You can reach out to any one of us and we'll help direct you to the right person. But this is our meaningful student and family engagement team. I saw Seat Lally here earlier. Just want to shout her out. She supports our district-wide student governance body, All City Council. So I also have her here for those of you that are middle school educators or high school educators. She's someone to definitely get to know. And this is also our feedback form. So I know we're about a minute away from 10 o'clock. We really appreciate your feedback. We're always working to improve how we implement this training session. So your feedback is critical for us. So please make sure you take the time, right? But with that, I just want to open it up for some questions. And then I'll also share just a little info about upcoming SSC training, school site council trainings. So any questions or comments before we close?
I added one to the chat, but I'll just read it right now. I'm the librarian at CCPA, and it's 6 through 12. So is there like a specific person I should reach out to for like support from a library lens and family engagement, since we're 6 through 12?
Yeah, I think CCPA is under, that's a good question. It might be Manera Mosin or Nicole Wiggins. So maybe Nicole is here today. I would start with maybe contacting Nicole. I think we should all put our emails in. Well, it's also on this other slide. Let me go back to it. So start with Nicole and we'll go from there. I know Nicole was also very involved when Roots was merging with CCPA, and she did a lot of family engagement, particularly with Black families from Roots who were coming to CCPA. And also just want to mention that Samantha is a CCPA parent.
You know Amari well.
I would start with Nicole and we'll include Manera. We can kind of tag team. So definitely start with Nicole.
Thank you so much
for being here.
Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I put my question in the chat too, and I was wondering, can we recommend families for you to reach out to or contact to make a connection with? Like if there's someone in my building and everyone's tried, but there's no growth, can we recommend a family to you?
Yeah, so the way we would probably approach that is have a conversation with you about what's been tried and what's the current structure, and then maybe try to do that initial contact or that third contact after you've already tried, but we always want to redirect family back to the site to be in relationship with site-based staff. So we can definitely support if you think it'd be helpful for there to be someone outside of the school building to contact the family. We can definitely do that for you. So I think if you're at elementary school level, you can contact Arcelia or Samantha, and we can kind of go from there. If you're not sure what network you're in, go ahead and reach out to one of them, and then we'll just kind of go from there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It is 10:02, so I want to respect people's time. If there is a particular question that didn't get answered, I just want to encourage you to email us. You can email myself or anyone here on this slide. We really appreciate you spending time with us. Family engagement is so critical to assure student success. We are a community school district, which means that we highly value family partnership as part of the education process. And we're here for your support to ask questions of, to be a thought partner, to troubleshoot strategies that you may be trying. So if it didn't get answered, please email us. This year, the district is really taking school governance and school site councils to a new level. We're going to be offering retreats throughout the year for anyone who is part of their school site council. We usually start off with an initial training in August, September, when councils are first getting started to kind of orient people to what they are and the role that they can play on the school site council. So just be looking out for more information in Parent Square about that. And once we get some concrete dates, we'll start to promote those across the district. We'll be distributing flyers, but we are a resource to you ongoing. So like I said, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We are here for your support. I want to thank our American Sign Language interpreters for being with us this morning. Really appreciate your support. I also just want to thank our presenters and you as participants for being so engaging. It really makes the experience richer when folks are really engaged. And so I appreciate you bringing that good energy so early this morning. So with that, I'm going to close out, and I just hope all of you have some time to take a break this summer to do some self-care, so that you're ready for the babies back in August, right? Our big babies, our little babies, right? We'll be ready for them in August. So take that break, take that breath, do that self-care. Thank you for serving in Oakland. We appreciate you. And with that, we're going to stop recording. And please take a few minutes to do the survey. And we'll hang out just in case there's some last minute questions. But with that, we're done for the session. Thank you.